Now to talk all things politics, Steve Schmidt, Scripps News contributor and founder of The Warning. Always love starting off the work week talking to you, Steve. Thanks for the time. You look like you're someone very nice. Yes. I don't want to start with the hogtie thing, because that strikes me as very much kind of on brand and a discussion we've had 8,000 times. But I do want to start in light of, we just got past Easter Sunday, and Trump is selling Bibles for $60 a pop. And I want to get your reaction to this New York Times headline: how Donald Trump is infusing Christianity into his movement, ending rallies with a church-like ritual and casting his prosecutions as persecution. The former president is demanding new levels of devotion from Republicans. What is this marriage between Trump and religion in this political moment we're in right now?
What we're seeing is a rise of Christian nationalism, and that is distinct from Christianity. In fact, I'm in Warsaw, Poland right now as the background, and when I return to the United States, I'll be flying to Washington, and we'll be at a premiere of a movie called Bad Faith, and it documents this insidious threat to liberty in the United States. All over the world, for as long as there has been a recording of the affairs of human civilization, there are governments, there are people who have proclaimed that they are the vessels of God, they are His Word, and those places historically have been the most deadly and evil on all the earth. And so if you're a faithful Christian, the fact that Donald Trump is hawking Bibles at $60, the fact that his campaign spokesperson is politicizing Easter Sunday, and Reverend Warnock, Senator Warnock, accurately talks about the fact that the message of Christ was inclusive of all people, all marginalized people, and how antithetical that is to the message of Trumpism, also the messages of violence. And so you cannot separate this from the images of the President of the United States hogtied in the back of a pickup truck, which is an Americanized version of the Taliban truck. That is a marker of fascism. This isn't normal in America. We didn't see this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, trucks kitted out like that, driving down a highway, and the presence is purposeful. It's to intimidate. We have some big problems in the country around our politics right now, and this campaign will become darker and darker as it moves forward over the balance of its 200 plus a couple days left.
How important is this section of voters, this evangelist group of people that we're talking about? I remember, Rob, you did an interview in New Hampshire with a religious leader there, and it didn't seem to matter to him what the legal consequences would be, the lewd comments about women, mocking disabled reporters and journalists. How important is this sector for him, and what is it about him that no matter what he does or says that goes against Christianity, it doesn't really seem to matter that much?
You're talking about a part of the electorate that they are trying to engage, trying to incite, trying to turn white hot, no pun intended, to turn out. The election will come down to small numbers across a handful of counties in a few core and critical states. And so this element in America is part of a through line. It existed in the Confederacy and breathed life into it. There were a lot of people who carried their Bibles as they spit on black children walking into elementary schools during the final days of Jim Crow. And so what we're seeing is a largely white, nationalist political movement that's carrying across. There's an old apocryphal quote that when fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in the flag and carrying a cross. It's falsely attributed to Sinclair Lewis, but that quote has meaning. What you're seeing is a long-term project in American life. Trump has surrounded himself with religious grifters like Pastor Paula, Benny Hinn, and others who are false prophets who make millions defrauding people on television. This is big bucks. This is part of that MAGA coalition. It's scary as hell when you get into it. General Flynn is at the core of it. And there are at least 3 documentaries that have documented the violence associated with all of this, whether it's Eric Rudolph, the Olympic bombing, the abortion bombings, whether it's Timothy McVeigh. All of this is touched on by this Christian nationalist movement that's a real threat and something Americans should take seriously. Again, this has nothing to do with faith. This has nothing to do with the teachings of Jesus Christ. This has nothing to do with religion. This is about politics. This is about power. This is about the rising of an American Taliban, an American religious extremism that's just as dangerous as any other place in the world where it manifests.
American Taliban is a phrase that will linger in my brain for the rest of the week. Steve, before we let you go, and I hear everything you're saying, but in an election year, you know as well as anyone, enthusiasm matters. And it seems by that barometer, it's all Trump. And even people who are voting for Biden don't necessarily love Biden. They just really don't want Trump to get back there. And I just wonder, when you talk about those critical counties in a handful of states, does the enthusiasm measure, which heavily tilts toward Trump, give him an edge if you were to look out over the horizon today and look at November 5th?
I think if the election were tomorrow, Donald Trump has the edge in that election. That being said, there's a question of enormous consequence coming for the country. And what has always been the case is the side in the debate that is the pro-democracy side is historically the last to awaken to the fight, the last to engage. So there are 200 and some days left. President Biden has to elevate the debate. He has to elevate the stakes. When the President of the United States is depicted, his dignity stripped, hogtied in the back of a pickup truck, a few years after Trump incited a violent insurrection against the peaceful transition of power, that act, that image, that tweet on X has meaning. What is that meaning? How should we think about it? It's ominous. It's a warning. It's dangerous. And as the election moves closer, it will become the job of President Biden and his campaign to fill in the blank spaces, to lay out the choice for the American people about the path ahead. And these issues, these things that we're seeing, they should be taken seriously. They're real and they matter. And the fact that as we watch this report coming into my segment with Serena, and you just try to comprehend that a former president of the United States issued what he issued and what she reported as his Easter greeting. And she did it with a straight face because it's news, but it's also madness, complete and total madness. And the American people are going to have an opportunity to reject it or to accept it as a national destiny. And I'm sitting in a city, Warsaw, that if you walk through the old town, you would not know that anything had happened discontiguous through the centuries. You wouldn't know that it was all destroyed, that it was gone, it was rubbleized, it was dust before it was rebuilt. So what Trump is, what he's revealing himself to be through those pickup trucks, through that violence, through that tweet, is something that is understandable, that's tangible, that can be made clear through a basic understanding of history. And the Biden campaign the American media, all of us will have a responsibility to try to communicate to our fellow citizens what exactly that is with less than a year to go.
Steve Schmidt, Scripps News contributor and founder of The Warning. As always, thank you for your time and your perspective, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.